It's me, Vera, here to remind you that this is an adult podcast. That means we're going to deal with tough topics. Take a break if you need it, and be kind to yourself, because we sure won't be.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stitch of Fate, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition podcast. As always, I am your storyteller, Mike Martin. Today, joined by my wonderful players, Dot, Bub, and Mark. Hello. I've been so long since I've said that to all three of you.
Here we all are.
Welcome back. We are missing a notable member of our coterie today.
Bum, bum, bum.
I wonder why. I wonder where he could be. Yeah, I don't know how many. I know, Dot, you watched, because you live watched with episode 1, right? So you know what happened. Did the other two? I'm assuming Mark and Bub did not watch episode 1?
Oh, man.
Not a clue.
So you have no idea what's happening over up there. Yeah, Dot's the only one who's actively stressing then, for I think, good reason. But that's neither here nor there, because for episode 2, we get to return back to New York. The ramifications of the last episode and what ended up happening with you all, and where New York currently sits after some time has passed. But before we get going, before we do any of this stuff, we got a bunch of things we want to talk about. One, Patreon. Thank you guys so much for the support on Patreon. We wouldn't be doing season 3 without you guys. Wouldn't be able to do the one-shots that we've been able to do without you guys. And stick around if you're on the Patreon. We've got an after show coming after every episode this season, so it'll be really cool. And if you aren't a supporter on Patreon, swing over, see if there's some stuff you like. Help us keep producing the show. We also have new merch, which I'm going to pass to Dot because she knows more about that than I do.
It's true. Actually, so I did this really cool thing this season. If you head on over to our social media, we have a link tree that gives you a whole list of all the many ways that you can find us or support us. And on there is a new merch link that leads you over to TeePublic. And, you know, when you buy Stitch of Fate merch, it puts some resources back in our pockets, which we desperately need this season. So, you can get What's the Rumpus hoodies seem to be very, very popular. Very popular. We've had a couple Duke mugs bought because you want Duke's mug staring at you while you wake up in the morning with your hot cup of coffee.
Yeah,
there's been some fan crushes of putting Shaun on some notebooks and things of that nature, and a few people have printed up posters of the whole like Succubus Club coterie photo, which is very, very cool. So there's some neat things.
We got some cool stuff over there. I like the poster a lot too. The poster looks so good because just Zara's art is just
and we'll have some new art coming
amazing.
too for our Patreon. So maybe just another reason to pop by.
Yeah, the next piece of art is going to be really cool. That's all I'll say about it. It's really neat. The other things we want, is there anything else we want to cover that I can't think of that I may have forgotten? No, we're good. All right. Then before we dive in, I just want to do a personal shout out to Gnome real quick. I feel like we never acknowledge Gnome for all the work he does. So shout out to Gnome. Gnome is our editor, if you don't know. Gnome's the one behind all the sound effects and music. And when Gnome isn't able, we also have a secondary editor and Rudy. They both do phenomenal jobs. Thank you to both of you. This show genuinely wouldn't be what it is without all of you guys. So check them out on Twitter. They've just
hire them
great work on the show.
Maybe you have a podcast that needs some editing.
Please, yes. And clearly they've done an amazing job. With that said, though, let's rein things in, quiet things down, and see what our coterie is up to. The first thing we hear as the scene comes into view is rapid footsteps at a jogging pace, gravel beneath sneakers kicked away in the silence of a back alley in a distant part of a block of New York City. They scramble around in the dark for a little while before we see them collapse down to their knees and their hands. They quickly start brushing away dirt and gravel on the ground, prying their fingers under some metallic cylinder. It's hard to see their details in the darkness, but their silhouette is illuminated by the moonlight that's peering through the passing clouds. Soon that metal lid is lifted with a grinding of metal on concrete, and that silhouette quickly dips into the sewers before closing up that grate again. The footsteps is then replaced with splashing in shallow water for a little while as they quickly move their way through the sewer tunnels underneath New York. But soon, a voice is the next thing heard over the footsteps. A male voice of 20-something, certainly young. And there seems to be a bit of hesitation as he speaks out. Vera? Vera? Oh, fuck, this is where she told me to meet. And this figure steps out from the sewer tunnels and is then illuminated by very pale yellow light that lines the sewer tunnels of this main one. And you can actually recognize Grant. Now, those who are listening may not realize who this man is, but in episode 1, a lick fed freshly from a club that had rules. And he was punished for doing so. The removal of a hand by Max's machete, followed by a boon owed. However, his hand is no longer missing, fully back in its place. He's wearing a jean jacket over a plain white t-shirt and ripped up khakis that have seen better days, and Nike shoes that come from the early 2000s with their kind of gaudy designs and flared tops. He stands in a shallow puddle, his head kind of going back and forth, and he shouts again as he takes another step into the shallow water. Vera! He lifts his sleeve back, looks at his watch, and mumbles to himself, 5 minutes and I'm out of here. Vera, you can hear your name being shouted from a distance as you are expecting him tonight.
I probably walk through the shadows until I have to make myself known.
About 4 minutes pass, and you see him getting antsy and looking over his shoulder, making his way slowly back to where he came.
I imagine Vera is in a much more humbled outfit than you've probably ever seen her, ever. She smokes a very cheap cigar because that's all she has left. In a very jaded way, no doubt. And she says, "Please stop yelling, or I'll have Max take your tongue this time."
He spins to his left about 90 degrees, where he immediately faces you, and Vera steps into the low yellow light that is illuminating this tunnel. He throws his hands up in frustration. Mark?
At the mention of his name, Max ripples into existence right behind Grant.
I'm going to make a roll to see if he notices. I'm going to say
Nice.
chances are probably not.
He probably will, because Max also speaks as he does this.
Oh, well, then, yeah. He's probably going to notice.
He just says,
Here, Grant. What's the rumpus? How's the new pa treating you?
He spins around yet again and just completely blindsided by you appearing. He gasps almost reactively, though he has no need to breathe. And he quickly puts a 2 steps distance between himself and Max, making himself a little closer to Vera in the process. But as he does so, he just... Can you guys... I don't understand why you can't just be where you say you're going to be, and when you tell me you're going to be there, and why you constantly have to just appear out of nowhere.
Vera blows.
I was here. I was here the whole time. And here's a little pro tip. You might want to try being a little more surreptitious about these meetings.
He shrugs. I don't know what that means.
Now that he's closer to Vera, she blows this cheap smoke in his face.
Waves it away very audaciously. Really?
I think what Max is trying to say is that we were already here. You were late.
He once again pulls up his watch and he taps it very obviously, and he's like, I am not late. I am on time.
Would you like to argue with us in an alleyway?
He looks like he genuinely, for a moment, thinks about it. There's a frustration that's incredibly clear on his face, but he quickly thinks better of it, swallows it, and he just shakes his head. No, we've been doing this too long. Nothing new to update. Arturo's still reigning supreme over New York, and everything seems to be fine. There's been a recent allowance to a Toreador for a new child, but I didn't get his fucking name. I apologize. I wasn't paying that much attention as I was trying not to be killed half the time. I don't want to be caught feeding you information. They'll take my head off. They even know you're fucking still alive.
Yeah, well,
Other than that,
listen,
things are fine.
Grant. Maybe shouting Vera's name out at the top of your lungs ain't the best way to go about things, considering.
Fair point. Okay. You got something else you want me to call you? Like, hey, boss?
That has a nice ring to it, doesn't it, Max?
Yeah, I figure so. You need me here, Vera, or,
No, I can't
You got-
imagine that he could do any harm.
He rolls his eyes.
well, maybe I'll.
I have
leave.
been doing this for you for 7 months, and you still don't trust me.
Oh, you poor thing. No, it's not that I don't trust you. It's that you've still not managed to learn the term subtle.
He scratches his face. Can you just remind me what subtle means?
Keep your shit on the down low.
He puts his hands up again and throws them in the air, frustrated. I feel like I've done a good job at keeping the fact that you guys are still around pretty secret.
I guess that will have to be seen.
Yeah, okay. Well, last thing, he looks over to Max before he leaves. Before you're gonna go, looks like Larson's old family's moving out. They've been packing all day, apparently. So if you want to swing over there and take a look, I know you have this interest in them, feel free. I don't know how much longer they're gonna be there.
Well, Grant, that is good information. Well done.
Ooh, so when's this boon gonna be considered equal?
Well, that's the thing about boons, you know. Sometimes they accumulate interest, Grant. But you're right. You've been doing an okay job so far. Just keep at it, and before you know it, you'll be free and clear. All right, kid?
Clearly frustrated that he's not getting the answer he was hoping for this night. His eye contact goes from both of you to the ground. He nods his head and is like, well, if that's it, I'm going to be on my merry fucking way.
Wait.
He looks to you and makes eye contact.
Vera pulls out probably like the last small box of cigarillos she owns. And she's like, the least I can do is assure that you enjoy your evening. And she hands it over to him. She has no money anymore. She has nothing to give this man.
He takes a minute to like look at you offering it and then takes a couple steps over and not so graciously, shall we? It's not that he snatches it from your hand, but there's just no amount of effort to like appear
no
like he
grace at
cares.
all.
Yeah, no grace. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's no grace when he reaches forward and yanks it from your hand. Yeah, thanks a bunch.
Wait, I said. Do they like him? The council. The Camarilla.
Do they like Arturo?
Yes, in his position. I'd like to know the political dynamic. Or are those words too big for you, Grant?
Yeah, everybody's sucking his dick as far as I can tell, but I can't tell you if they're doing it because they think it's what's good for him, if they actually like the guy. Arturo is a nasty man. He was Harpy before this shit. You know that. Man had all the secrets in the city.
I know that man. Well, have a wonderful night, Grant.
You too, Miss Boss. And he gives you a kind of just a quick nod and
Oh,
looks
and,
to make his way out.
Before you go there, Grant,
Max walks up to him, gets very close,
surreptitious means sneaky.
and Max fades out right in front of his view.
He blinks a couple times, and then you see him very openly, like, shudder, and he's like, I hate when he fucking does that. And he turns and just, like, walks with speed now.
Vera's left standing in, like, dirty street water and a street light under a black trench coat with, like, a felt black hat, you know?
Alone appear seemingly as Max did go invisible. But does Max whisper or speak to Vera before anything else?
So, as informative as ever, I suppose.
Yes, some things never change.
What's the play there, boss?
Honestly, Max, for the first time in a long time, I'm out of plays. We've been through files A through Z, and we're left living in a burned-out basement.
Well, I gotta be honest. I mean, things haven't really changed that much for me. I just got roommates now.
I guess that's true. I guess we've all had to make contingencies in some ways. That being said, we're still surviving. And if there's nothing else Vera Volkov is capable of, it is fucking surviving.
Okay, then. I reckon we head home.
Yes, I imagine Duke has finished the paperwork. Hopefully that insurance will come through and John can purchase the place and we can start over, right?
Sure thing, Vera. Sure thing. Listen, I gotta check in on a few things. You know, I got a few, regular deliveries I gotta make, so, you're gonna be okay to get home yourself?
I've walked these streets alone many times, but yes, of course, handle your business.
All right. See you around.
And on that, the camera pulls back slightly, and we watch Vera walk away from nothing, away from the light and into the streets, and she begins to make her way back what was once home. But her vision cuts, and quickly we're in the basement of a familiar place, surrounded by brick wall and concrete floor. In this basement, we know these walls. They were once the place of the blood room, but now it's a place where many live. And I imagine the signs of a lived-in basement are now apparent everywhere, with where Vera rests. Where would Vera take up residence in the basement of the club? What room would she choose as her own?
That's very interesting.
There's not many to choose from.
Right. It's basically just like, I imagine, small box rooms in the basement of a theater, except for the piece that would have been under the stage that may once have had like a, the stage drop through or the trap door. But Max was down here, and so was John. John's bedroom was originally down here.
John would immediately offer you his room in the past.
She would never have taken it from him. Absolutely not.
Sure.
Oh, I imagine Vera takes up residence in the costume closet with all the old boas and things that once were beautiful and but no longer.
However, as the camera kind of begins to glide through the rooms and we see what was likely Vera sleeps in other empty box rooms, we come to the furthest one in the back, tucked away in a corner, where a simple unfolding plastic table sits, and pacing back and forth is Duke, looking at paperwork. In the corner of the room, sitting on top of two cardboard boxes stacked on top of each other, likely filled with various other paperwork, is Max Jr. His tail is flipping back and forth aggressively, and his eyes are locked on Duke. And if Duke ever gets too close, Max Jr. lets out a very low growl. But he's never not paying attention to where Duke is in this moment. And Duke, you've been going through, filing the paperwork for purchase of this place, what funds are needed, and how much it would take to buy this now rubble that sits on top of the basement that was once yours, now believed to belong to nobody and going up for sale, and how you can take it under a pseudonym or a name, or to take it under John's name specifically, as John is a mortal and the insurance would have fallen into his name. But that pacing is interrupted. As you're piecing together the last things needed, there's a gentle knock on the door frame. And as Duke turns his eyes to look, there's John, slightly hunched, with a worried look on his face. He's wearing his casual attire, and as he looks over, his eyes look to you and then break. I apologize, Mr. Prement. I would just need a few moments of your time if you wouldn't mind.
Certainly, John. Please take a seat.
He shuffles in slowly, his feet grinding with the concrete floor, before he lowers himself carefully into the chair, placing both hands on the table and using it to prop himself as he eventually plops into the rolling chair. He takes a moment and reaches into his jacket and pulls out an envelope, and he kind of just places it gently on the desk with his frail hand. And as he places his fingertips on it, you see the wrinkles across the back of his hand and the thick vein that runs obviously underneath it. And as he pushes it slowly, I have been informed that the purchase of this place is... Well, there's been a problem. And he slides it forward. Somebody has made an offer before you.
Well, John, It's not a problem until you accept that offer. And up to that point, though the offer may have come through, you still have to file with the reservation of rights. You can yield this unto anyone.
He shakes his head. It doesn't seem to be that complicated. It seems they've bypassed a lot of the necessary. I open, and he kind of just pushes the envelope. I don't understand a lot of what's being said in this. I figured this is something maybe you could explain.
Certainly, let me have a look.
As you reach forward and take it from his hand, and he retracts his hand slowly, and you flip open the envelope, and you pull out paperwork, you see a lot of filing for. Now, I'm not a. No, feel free to edit this out. I am not a landlord dude. I'm not a property guy, so the right kind of paperwork and stuff is a little bit beyond me. More or less, what I'm trying to get to here is that a lot of that stuff's already been taken care of. It seems like a lot of it's been written off or
they
ignored.
bypassed some
as
laws.
you look at, so as you flip open this envelope and pull out the paperwork, it does seem like this building is being closed on. And as you file through, this makes no sense. They shouldn't be able to do this so easily. As you start looking for names, you see two that stick out. You see one, a Mr. Astor, and two, a Mr. Guzman.
Both of these names are familiar to Duke.
As they should be.
When did you receive these documents, John?
This morning, while you were all retired for
I'll check the date of the envelope.
It looks like it was post-dated
Is there a
2
point
days
of
ago.
contact?
No, simply the, yes, there's a return offices, the financial offices of a, someone that you would recognize as likely belongs to Guzman.
Thank you, John. I'll handle the matters. I appreciate your candid and timely efforts.
He simply gives you a nod, and he steps out. As he shuffles out into the hallway, we can hear the door leading to the basement and some clacking heels on concrete as Vera enters her home. John simply gives you a nod and says, I believe Mr. Bremen is likely going to want to speak with you, Miss Volkov.
Thank you, John.
He shuffles off.
Vera takes off a very probably damp black trench coat made of old wool and hangs it on a prop hat rack, no doubt, and rounds the corner. Have I been summoned, Duke?
Only to your throne, of course, and throne of burnt brick and whatever else we happen to cobble beneath ourselves.
She sits in a wooden chair.
It creaks as you sit in it. Its age apparent.
There are only 2 times I ever get to come visit you in a business setting, Duke. One of them is usually good. The other is not. And since we keep rolling up shit dice, I'm gonna guess something's wrong.
Well, I suppose it's a manner of peering at it in the right light. And this is not one that I'm afraid is going to at least be half sensibly seen in the appropriate form. The place is being bought, Vera.
Yes, of course, by John.
No, Vera. Someone is usurping your throne. They're taking the club. They've gone through the proper measures and they're bypassing it. And I know with absolute cause that it is kindred related.
Who? Who is it?
Would you like the good news or the bad news?
Wait, this isn't the bad news.
No, Vera, I'm afraid it's not.
Well, it's a good thing I'm sitting, but I'm not wearing any pearls to clutch. Go ahead, Duke.
Well, the good news is the first is a very prominent Ventru, Mr. Cesar Guzman. He's my sire.
Your sire is buying our club.
And the bad news is that he's in cahoots, at least in the moment, with your sire.
Astor's buying the club back.
I push the open document across the table.
Vera reaches for cigars that aren't there, as if she would really like to light up a smoke right now. And she remembers she gave them to Grant.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you remind yourself in that moment you gave them to the most unworthy piece of crap that you just ran into.
I look over these documents like I have any idea what they actually say, or mean, and I see his name and Duke Sire's name, and
The difference in signature stands out to Vera. Aster's rather, is a full of flourish. It looks like a famous man's or celebrity signature, while Guzman's is very simple print, precise in a lot of ways. It just looks very neat, like almost typeface, but it's written and connected.
you know, Duke, he worked many, many years to get his handwriting to look like that. He used to fill books full of it. What an egotistical little prick. To use the same signature to sign off on buying my club. Okay. If we look on the bright side of life, you're here because you're really good at this. Well, that and I enjoy your macabre company. But what do we do, Duke? How can we one-up them? There has to be some bureaucratic form, legal thing we can sort out.
Regardless of the offer that they put in on the club, John still has to sign off. They've managed to weasel their way through some things, which is normal when money is involved. But John still has to sign off, and I imagine, given some of the unique talents of a Toreador, that shouldn't be an issue. Luckily, though, I am still within solid and positive standing with my sire. I can speak with Cesar. At least try to. He signed this. And this is his financial backing company, so I know that he is now in town. I knew that it was only a matter of time before it became a problem that we had disappeared.
We've been dead 8 months, Duke. Give or take a few days. If we go to them and let them know that we are alive, then our whole... This is over. How do we promise that they are not going to reveal all of our secrets and the fact that she is still hiding in the wall?
It's going to take some communicating, is my guess. I'm more valuable to my sire alive than I am dead.
This will not end well for me, Duke.
It brings me to a line of thought.
Oh?
There, it might be time that we consider removing ourselves from New York.
You mean leave?
Yes. Yes, I'm afraid that there isn't much left here, and some would see us better off dead, remaining that way, than alive, or at least undead. We could find opportunities to flourish elsewhere. All of our contacts are now at a loss. We have no more funding rolling into the club. We have no more pushers. We're simply out, and we're running the bare threads of our finances. We're at lick status, at least monetarily. In age, not so.
You know, I always thought if I moved, it'd be some kind of style, a big hubbub to do, Vera stepping up in the world. If we leave now with all of this, and without Shaun,
Do you think Shaun is still alive?
Shaun is the kind of critter who survives, Duke. He's still out there. I don't know which side of the line he stands on. Maybe he doesn't either.
When Vera speaks and says that she believes Shaun is still alive, what does Duke think of that? While we may not see him physically, I'm curious what his thought process is. Does he believe Shaun is still alive?
I think Duke has always seen Shaun not necessarily as a liability to others as much as he is a liability to himself. He constantly played it like, he drove it like he stole it, right? So every opportunity that he had to say a smart-ass remark,
I love that description of Shaun. It's such a
Shaun
so
would
perfectly
put his
Shaun.
foot in his mouth. How many times did we almost lose him in previous seasons, right? So I think that Duke might be under the impression that Shaun is either completely of another way of life at the moment, or he's dead, and that Vera is explaining this to herself as a comfort. And he's not going to shake that boat because clearly, well, she's hanging on the best she can.
Oh, hi. It's Vera. While you're sitting around taking a break, do us a little favor, would you? Go visit dieharddice.com. Die Hard Dice is a sponsor of this little podcast. They help make what we do possible. During checkout, make sure to use the code FATE, F-A-T-E, when you do. You'll get 15% off during the month of November from your entire purchase. And we get a little cut for our own resources. Sounds like we only roll with the best. And even if we have to leave, where would we go? And we would just be where we are now, without anyone on our side. We can't run from our messes, Duke. We have to at least clean it up some, right?
It might be valuable for us to consider what the value of selling this club actually could be. Now, I know that there is a certain prize nesting in the walls. Something we shouldn't give up. But I do believe that we've nested our own eggs in a singular basket that seems to be floating down, what do they say? Shit Creek without a paddle.
Ugh, what a horrible term.
We're in a bad way, Vera.
Yes, I know, Duke. I'm wearing clothes from the costume closet.
For what it's worth, you still look rather debonair.
Ugh. Aren't you kind? Thank you. All right, fine. We tell our sires. And I know you don't have daddy issues. But Aster is not going to allow me to get out of this without a lot owed to him. It's not freedom if you trade up one for another. I fought for a very long time to not be under his little thumb. And I have to come crawling back now, begging for him to let me keep what is rightfully mine.
I'd like to posit a thought.
Yes.
It can require a fair amount of trust from you, and I understand if you immediately turn it away.
Oh. Well, Duke, we've known each other a long, long time. And when you came bustling through my door with paperwork in hand, I knew this was going to be a different one.
Let's continue the charade, the facade. Pretend that Vera Volkov is in fact dead. I can maintain the estate of John, and it would be one of those situations where, in your passing, whatever was here where I stayed was left to be mine, and now I'm caring for John as a last gift to you.
Aster cannot know who John is. That is all that I ask if we were to make such a deal.
I suppose they're going to want to know exactly how this found and wound its way into John's acquisition.
Oh, yes, well, that's going to be a difficult one. I don't know. Maybe Aster's ego has let him long forget the man that he killed. But, as long as Aster doesn't put the pieces together, John can just be a cover. Any old man that we picked up. But if he finds out that he means anything at all to me, he'll be dead long before his years are up.
John is tied to this place, as is this individual that you spoke of, correct?
He was, yes.
Is there a
John-
direct correlation that I should be aware of?
I have chosen to let John live a mortal life. His father and I were in love.
And the man that was slain,
Is his father.
he was slain by
his
Aster.
father. Yes.
How old was John when he was slain?
Very young. My understanding is his actual mother died of sickness. Cold took her. Natural cause, if you consider sickness natural. So John was not left with anyone.
But this place.
He was not tied to this place. He was lost to the dear system that the kind love to use to enslave themselves. I found him many decades later and offered him an opportunity.
Do you wish to bank a claim on the fact that your sire will forget a man that he murdered some years ago?
This is the fear that I have, Duke. And if it means that I must sacrifice myself to assure John is safe, well then, so be it.
Then I'm afraid you will not come out of this unscathed.
Oh, Duke. I am exactly who I am. Because I am always on the wrong side of the line. I've never gotten out of anything unscathed.
Very well. If you have settled on this fact, then I'll reach out immediately to the services of my sire. I can establish a meeting personally between him and I. But Aster will want to be part of it in the near future. I can only imagine.
Well, I imagine that I will find Aster exactly where he loves to be. I can handle Aster. I guess. Until then. Do you know, Duke? I turned 100 this year. I was going to throw a party.
We can celebrate still. Birthdays are important.
Well, it doesn't mean anything if I also die on my 100th year. Die again. Never get used to saying that, do you? No matter how old you are.
I'm afraid that long after you die a second time, your mark will be left on this world. Yours better yet than some others. Yours could be seen as a mark. Mine would be a stain.
Ugh. Duke, I imagine that before this is all done, the name of the Drag Pack will be the greatest stain that New York has ever seen. In fact, I hope for it.
There's a certain silence that settles after that line. Vera remains in the chair relaxed, and Duke gazes at her for a few beats before he scoops up the paperwork. He has things to settle, and he has to ensure he at least has a meeting with these people. And the camera will fade to black. where would be the first place Max goes, Mark?
I think since he was relatively near to the club, the school would probably be his first stop. He's been making a couple of deliveries over the last 8 months while lying low. He does have certain responsibilities that he has made sure to fulfill.
And do you arrive at the school on a regular schedule, or are your visits more unannounced and sporadic?
Somewhat unannounced. Obviously, there are time constraints because there's a regular feeding schedule that has to be maintained. So I would say that the person that Max is visiting probably knows to expect him.
And that makes sense. As Max approaches the school, it's the typical, as typical to your arrival, there are 2 young girls that are maintaining the school overnight. Whether they belong to the salubri in a ghoul fashion or they're simple students, boarding there and taking care of chores, it doesn't matter all that much, and I'm sure Max hasn't pressed or pried too hard. It isn't his business, and you guys have your own secrets to keep as well. However, it does mean that there is a certain procedure that you follow to enter the school to allow them to know it's you that's approaching, as you are supposed to be perished. And that usually involves coming up through the sewers in a small crack in the tile through one of the female bathroom stalls, one that's always marked as out of order and completely broken. You shift the toilet off to the sides. It's not actually completely connected to the sewer systems. And as the toilet moves, you actually see just a narrow hole that's kind of burrowed through, and getting Max through that hole is always a challenge. In fact, sometimes Max gets stuck. Can I please get a Dex Athletics check for Max as he climbs through this school toilet hole? There it is. You rolled 1 success. You get 1 success, and that's enough to get you through. However, toward the end, as you get your shoulders through, your bulky arms are a bit much, and there's a moment where you kind of hear Max just like tugging and tugging.
If anyone was in the bathroom, they might hear a low muttering,
Ah, God damn it, every fucking time.
And as there's some struggle, eventually you hear the cracking of a tile as another one gets let loose, just enough so that your left arm can pull all the way through. And once your arm is through, you're able to kind of hoist yourself up. And as you pull yourself up and you slide the toilet into the place, you actually hear a meek voice. Hello? Is anyone in there?
is this a voice that Max recognizes?
It's one that you recognize, however, it is not Stinky's voice. It is a regular night carer of one of the students that are here. In fact, it's a voice that belongs to a young girl named Anna.
Is Anna aware of Max's presence?
She is, has come across
or rather,
Max.
rather his existence.
Yes. The question I have for you is, do you keep yourself mega wrapped up when you come here, or are you more facial features forward?
I would say if visible, certainly to anyone except Stinky and the headmistress, he does.
Okay, then yeah. She knows of your existence. She just thinks that you're a sickly homeless person that comes to get a free food from the teacher every so often, and you're kind of like, the reason you're in through this way is that way you're not caught on security cameras, and the school can't pull funding for feeding somebody they're not supposed to.
Very well. Now I know her name.
Yes, Anna.
It's like, hey there, Anna. It's just me again. Sorry. Didn't mean to scare you none.
And as your voice kind of echoes out in this empty bathroom, still low and muttered, you hear a sigh of relief. I'll let her know that you're here. I'll let teacher know you're here. And you hear her footsteps scurry off.
Do I get the sense that this girl is a ghoul?
You have suspicions. There are suspicions that she may be. You don't know for sure, though. You're not sure who the teacher has pulled into the lifestyle, if any at all, but you have your suspicions.
Yeah. Well, again, unless I'm sure of things, then yes, he would not be breaking the masquerade by showing his very obviously inhuman face.
That makes sense. You are, at all times when you arrive to the school, told to wait in this stall once you've been, once you enter, and that you will be brought to where you need to be, or whatever it is you need is brought to you. As you sit here for about 10 or so minutes, kind of pacing, or just, whatever it is Max does to pass the time.
He does light up a cigarette and sort of chuckles to himself.
Smoking in the girls' room.
So we see Max light up a cigarette and he chuckles to himself as he says that line, takes a drag. About 5 to 10 minutes pass before you actually hear another meek voice. You don't hear them enter. You simply hear a familiar voice, one that belongs to none other than Stinky. And you hear her say, Max?
Hey, kid, how you doing?
And you hear a gasp with like a pleasant sound, and she kind of scurries forward and knocks on the door first.
Come on in.
She opens the door.
What's the rumpus?
And as you say, what's the rumpus, as she pulls the door open, you just see her, she beams immediately. And she runs over and just gives you a hug.
Hey, good to see you. So, I got your lunch here.
As always, when you present her with this, she doesn't ever take it eagerly. She doesn't seem excited. She kind of just takes it and pockets it nonchalantly and is more interested in having conversation with you. As she pulls the snack or meal, as you may call it, and give it to her, and she pockets it, she just looks up to you.
So, what kind of feeding schedule is Stinky
You
on?
need to do it every 30 days, essentially. So you want to do it within 30 days. So once a month, you pop over.
Yeah. So, how were the last couple of weeks of school?
It's been fun. As long as I stay out of sight, I am allowed to participate and like learn. And she's like, here, let me show you some of the new things that I've learned. And I'm going to make a roll for her real quick. She does some very, very beginner level dance maneuvers, pirouettes, and she balances herself over on a wall so she can kind of like bend her knees all the way down with her legs crossed. She does some, I'm not a man of ballet culture, so I'm going to lack some of the actual definitions. However, Dot, if you know any, I'm not,
She
I
does
have
one
no,
of them,
anybody knows any.
plies and a pirouette and whatnot.
There you go. Those are the two terms I know.
Perfect.
Well done, Mark.
There you go. Plie, pirouette. Perfect. And that,
And then she does like one of those Swan Lakes.
yeah, she tries to do a Swan Lake. She doesn't succeed in the Swan Lake maneuver. It's a very complicated high-end maneuver.
Nevertheless, Max gives her,
Nice round
And
of
she
applause. Hey, that's
She
good.
smiles.
That's nice stuff.
She smiles at that, and she looks back to you. She's like, "How about you? I know. Well, I guess I shouldn't ask." And she kind of like,
Yeah, you know. Yeah, don't worry about me. Same old, same old. Max Jr. sends his love.
she grins at that. Hey, what about?
Yeah, sorry I couldn't bring him with, but I had something I had to attend to. You know how it is.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate being able to see him whenever it is I can. I don't complain, you know. And she continues. What about the place? Are you guys still gonna? Do you think you guys are still gonna kind of make your home again?
I don't know. It doesn't seem too smart staying in one place for too long. The heat is on, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess that's you guys. Well, what are you gonna do then?
I don't know. We haven't really had a chance to talk it over serious, but if it was up to me, we might have to start thinking about pulling up stakes.
Where would you go? Boston?
That I don't know.
Boston?
Boston, yeah. I don't know. New York's been, well, it's the only city I ever really lived in, you know?
Me too.
And I'm north of a century, so kind of stuck in my ways.
Wait, if you guys are gonna go, what about me?
Well, that's what we gotta start to think about.
You take me with you?
Of course, Stinky, of course. Not a
all
man
right,
who takes his responsibilities lightly, and you're my responsibility, so you don't gotta worry about that.
I wouldn't wanna put that on you. She's the mistress is very good to me here. I think I'd be okay here, you know. I just but the fact that you might take me, I mean, that's kind of exciting too.
Well, if you wanted to stay, of course, we'd try to make that happen, but then we gotta figure out how your lunch is gonna get delivered, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. If he's still out there, I don't want to go back out there with you guys gone, you know?
No, I don't think that'd be a wise move. Listen, you were saying that you gotta keep out of sight to go to classes, but, you can do that thing, right, where you just look like, somebody else?
I can't. He
You can't?
he would do that to me.
What do you mean?
He could make me look like somebody else.
Huh. Oh, I see. Yeah. But you can be on the scene when you want to, right?
I can be unseen if I don't move.
Yeah.
And I stay really still.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry, Stinky. You'll get there. You'll get there eventually.
She nods. Well, thanks for telling me at least.
Yeah, like I say, nothing's for sure yet, but I wanted to put the bug in your ear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, should I tell her or should I?
Maybe not for now. Like I say, it's a lot of maybes.
Yeah, a lot of maybes, and as long as he doesn't know I'm still around, that's fine. I'm happy. I'm happy being here. I feel like I've never been more cared for than I have here.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure that continues. But you take care of yourself, Stinky.
Yeah, I'll see you again though, right?
And oh yeah, I'll
Just be safe, please.
And just another thing I mentioned a while ago. Stinky, that's kind of a name he gave you, ain't it?
Yeah.
You thought about if there's anything else that you'd like me to call you?
No one's ever asked me that, so let me think on that. I don't want. It's nothing. It's nothing against you, but I don't want to use my real name.
No, take your time, kid. Take your time.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, there's got to be something better you can call me. I'll think about it. Thanks, Max.
No problem, kid.
Here, let me help. And she walks over to the toilet and starts moving it out of the way. Yeah, it starts to grind against the tile, the porcelain. It rattles the toilet seat.
Yeah, well, it's a lot easier for you to get down this fucking thing. Okay, there we go.
She stands back
There
and
we
just
are.
watches, and you hear her just giggling openly as you squeeze yourself into it. Yeah, maybe I should make that. I don't know. It's just, I fit fine. And she smiles. And as there's just like your head kind of sticking down, you pop your head down, you start clawing your way back. She gives you a wave as you kind of go down to the tunnel, and that light from the building shuts as she slides the toilet back over the hole. And down to the sewers, you eventually find yourself again. There's still a few places that I think Max wants to visit.
Yeah, he has another delivery to make, actually.
How does this delivery go? Because as you'll be clawing your way out of the sewers a couple blocks away in a suburban area where the buildings are very closely packed together to remind you what it looks like. And Sam lives in a small one-story, one-family house with his sister.
Up to this point, over the last few months, Max has basically been leaving a vial for Sam where he can find it, usually with some kind of comic book related greeting card. But this time, he leaves it in its usual place, but also stays obfuscated, waiting for Sam to arrive.
So you probably arrive on this evening, maybe about 30 minutes to an hour before he's home from his new job, where he's pulling in a little extra money. And as you wait, you watch as a 98 Subaru Legacy rattling on its last rotors pulls up to his house. And you can hear it coming from a couple blocks away, and you're very familiar with the sound at this point. It's got that deep forest green with rusted out edges. And as the car pulls up to the side of the street and parallel parks between two cars where you can find a space, you watch Sam open the doors, fling the door shut. He actually reaches forward and has to open the door and slam it shut another time to make sure it stays shut. He locks it, and he, with a heavy sigh, pulls off his coat and starts walking his way to the front door.
Does he notice that the delivery has?
If you've left the delivery, what kind of calling card would you have left? Like, is it an actual comic? Do you go and like pluck a comic from somewhere, or?
Yeah, it's probably it's not something from his collection
Sure.
because of course he only has a few of those left. But he probably popped into a comic store obfuscated at some point.
Sure, yeah. So
And,
there's a comic there, and as he jumps up the stairs, he opens his mailbox where you would have stuck it, and he sees that the comic's kind of just a little too big for the mailbox, leaving it just propped open from the notice. And as he flings it open, he looks inside. He reaches in, pulls out the comic, and then reaches in a second time. And you very clearly see him hold something up that is very likely the vial. He looks around, and he kind of gives a distant salute into the general air as he pockets the vial, and he pulls the keys out and opens his front door.
Once I've seen that the vial is in a safe place and he's not going to drop it on being startled, the familiar greeting of,
Hey, Sam, what's the rumpus?
He jumps a mile, as it's been a long time since you've made yourself known to him. And as the keys fall from the door and hit the ground, and he spins around.
actually, they get caught by Max before they.
As they're just
kinda
about to
figured
hit the
that was gonna
ground, yeah,
happen.
your hand scoops under,
Yep.
and they hit your palm. And as you stand up, towering over him by about 6 or so inches, he looks up, and there's just bewilderment on his face.
Yeah, sorry about that, Sam. I thought it was time I should maybe touch base.
Well, first of all, I mean, I thought I had a feeling it was. I mean, who else could it have been? But is everything okay? Where have you? He looks around. She's, come in. He opens the front door and he like motions for you to come into the living room. Does Max go in? As
Yes.
Max shuffles in, he closes the screen door, followed by the inner door. As he shuts it, deadbolts it, and he's like, "My sister should be asleep." And hang on, he reaches for a nearby remote and turns on his smaller, maybe like 25-inch LCD TV to local cable, and just has this background noise of the evening news playing. As that's all finally up and running, and there's this dim light from the TV glowing in the room, he spins back to you. What the hell's happened? Where have you been for the past 6 months? I mean.
Yeah, put it this way, there were some complications, and had to lie low. But I made sure you were taken care of.
Yeah, like I don't know who else it could have been, obviously, but I couldn't be sure. Is everything okay? Are you coming out of hiding because everything's about to go wrong? Do I need to move? Find a new job again?
Well, I'll put it this way. I'm thinking of relocating. It's in the wind, you know.
Like to the Bronx?
Maybe a little further afield, as they say.
You mean out of state?
Could be. Like I say, it's all maybes and whatnot. Nothing for sure yet, but it might be the smart move.
When?
Again, hard to say, but I thought I should maybe clue you in.
Yeah. What is it?
Now, here's the thing. I understand if you gotta stay here, but, well, maybe a change of scenery might not be a bad idea for you and your sister.
Yeah. No, I'm not against the idea. I'm a little taken aback. I apologize.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I'm just, like I say, laying the groundwork, letting you know where the lay of the land is, 'cause, well, when things start happening, they can move fast. Now, we're not exactly in a great position financially right now, but once we're in a new place, things are gonna be different.
Okay, it's not impossible. I can make it. I can probably make it work.
Now, this ain't something you gotta do, but if I move on, I'm probably gonna have to find new help, you know what I'm saying?
He swallows heavily at that as his eyes kind of trace from the floor to the ceiling as he clearly begins to think. Max, you've done a lot for me and obviously my sister and my family over the years. My life would not be where it is if you hadn't entered it. It's just the truth. You've saved a lot for me. To be fair, I didn't really understand what I was getting into. I'm not to say I'm tapping out. I'm actually, if I'm brutally honest with you, I'm too afraid to tap out. I'm afraid what would happen. And maybe this is my fault, but my sister can live an okay life now because of what you've been able to provide for me. Losing you would put all of that in jeopardy.
Yeah, look, I know I'm kind of putting you in a situation,
Yeah,
but
I'm not done. Maybe I can ask you a favor?
what do you need?
When the time comes, if you want me to go with you and to take my sister with you, would you be willing to feed her too? At least maybe just for the trip, to make the trip easier for her?
Yeah, well,
He
got a lot of customers these days.
He gives you kind of a half-hearted smile before he goes back to a very serious face, and he taps the pocket where the vial is. I don't claim to really understand what happens, but all I know is when this makes me feel a lot better, and obviously it gives me a lot of advantages. It's, in a lot of ways, it's kind of a miracle serum.
You know, it might help her, I'll be honest.
Just,
It can do a lot of stuff, but you think she's up for...
I won't tell her.
I think that's gotta be something she walks into with her eyes open, you know what I'm saying?
I don't want her to know the things that I know, because the things that I know make my life more dangerous.
Yeah, but, you know how you're a little scared to get off, or rather, to get on the wagon?
Yeah?
Well, let's say that she starts drinking. And she's gonna need that, right? She's gonna need it forever.
You can't just
'Cause
not
if
give
it
it to her
stops-
anymore?
Well, if it stops, she's right back to square one. And maybe worse off than she was before. So I think she's gotta know.
You might have a point. When the time comes, if you're willing, we can have that conversation further, I think. I'm just glad to see you okay, first and foremost, you know?
Sure, kid, yeah, we can work stuff out, but it's good to see you again. Well, I'm gonna be honest, I've seen you a few times.
He takes a minute and then he kind of chuckles to himself. I think that's comforting. It's really, really good to see you, Max. I missed you, man. And he comes over to give you a hug.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you anyway.
And he gives you a quick one of those, like, man hugs where he brings it in and pats you on the back a couple times real hard before he just kind of grasps your shoulders and steps back. Well, I'm going to make her dinner, wake her up. Just be safe and don't be afraid to say hi every so often.
You bet, kid. Take care.
You too. And he runs over to the door to open it for you and let you out. But I'm sure before you even step out, you disappear.
Very true.
Is there any other place Max would like to go this evening?
I think, yeah, with his regular business concluded, he'll probably return to the club to rendezvous with the others.
As Max returns to the club, Vera and Duke would Vera be just hanging out with Duke? There's not many places she can go, but she has her own room she could go to.
She probably has a dark corner she
Broods.
like brutes in, yeah.
Vera's brooding in a dark corner while Duke is probably flipping through older paperwork, newer paperwork, and getting ready or typing up a letter to be sent off. Eventually, you don't hear Max's arrival. Max simply announces his arrival when he's ready to.
Hey, folks, what's the rumpus?
As he ripples into existence, standing in the corner of the room.
Welcome back.
Home sweet home, right?
Home sweet home. Oh, speaking of home, Duke. Larson's family's moving.
I'm listening.
Well, I'd like to say I have more information than that, but that's all I know. But it's more than we had. And that means that somebody has taken a vested interest in them. Or else they haven't.
I could dig into some things, see what I can discover.
I thought it might be nice to figure out which moving company. Our dear friend Grant mentioned trucks. If we can find the moving company, we can find information on where they're taking their things. Who's paying for it?
So, you want I should take a gander in person?
Yes, I know you've been watching them a little bit. I question how to say this with sensitivity, but do they seem upset that Larson's gone?
Max, in the beginning, yes. There was a clear period of grieving. They likely believe Larson is dead due to the fire, and there was a clear sort of funeral for him. I wouldn't say you watched the funeral, but you watched the preparations from afar during certain days, and just enough to get information to confirm that they certainly, at the very least, grieved the loss of Larson. This was like 5 months ago.
Right.
I mean, could be that they just figure he's dead. There's been no communication. They're starting over somewhere else, you know?
Yeah. Giving up and moving on, right? Well, if nothing else, if there is a lead, there is a connection to either Larson and whatever he's got going on up north on some piece of property. Or maybe it's the Camarilla. Either way, it may be the first lead we've had in a long, long time.
Okay. I can pop by, see what they're up to.
Other ideas?
I can look in to see where the money is moving. People are a lot less honest than numbers. I'm not necessarily an expert. I'm not an authority on this. But I would believe that they're just moving on. It's a likelihood that with child, she may have to stay home to support the emotional state of that child. And it's likely that Larson was the breadwinner of the house. She may simply just be downsizing or even moving in with family, but I'll monitor the money. Discover what I can.
That would be nice. Because I hope for that poor woman's sake she's mourned the loss of that piece of shit and moved on. But if she hasn't, and he's shown back up with a little bit of extra money to move them, I want to know that too.
Max is going to check his little fridge. How much he of course has not been relying on Sam.
Right.
He's just been
robbing,
sneaking into hospitals and liberating them of some excess blood.
We'll
bags.
say, since you're probably not getting as regular of a flow, you have a blood bag left before you need to rob. Luckily, you're all at one hunger. There's no need for anybody to drink in the moment. But you have one.
Okay, I'm gonna have to do a little shopping on the way to Larson's place, or maybe on the way back. I'd pick you up something, but we all know you folks can't drink it like I do.
That is a very true statement. No, I'm surprisingly not very hungry. It seems my appetite has gone a bit dull.
I think Duke probably just stares at Vera to see if she's going to take that leap to tell Max about the impending purchase of the domain. But if she doesn't, then he follows that lead.
I guess how much does Max care about the business? Like, Max might have known that John was going to buy it, but how much of the business talk is Max interested in?
Usually he's basically just, what do you need, Vera? He's not necessarily going to be in on the nuts and bolts of... He knows that the plan is basically to rebuild, or as far as he knows, the plan is to rebuild. But as we've seen in the other scenes, he's kind of getting itchy feet independently.
Yeah. Max. Oh, Astor has shown his ugly little Toreador face.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
He's trying to buy the club back, alongside Duke's sire.
Huh. Well, that kind of complicates things, right? Because if they buy the club, or the land where it used to be, they're probably going to want to store some boxes in the basement at the very least.
Yes. They'll clean the vermin right out, no doubt. Duke and I were considering approaching them. Breaking our secrecy to them alone.
I mean, I know some of the history there. You think that's a great idea?
I don't have a better idea unless we want to end up on the streets.
Okay, Vera. I'll back you play, whatever it is. You let me know when you need some skulls busted, huh?
The day I could pay you to bust Astor's skull. Well, I wish I had better news and a glass of vodka, but here we are.
And as
All
always,
right. So, like I said, I'm gonna pick up a few things, and I'll see what's what with Lawson's family.
And as this particular evening comes to a close, and the camera pulls out, as always, our vision is brought to the sky, and we watch as the moon sets. And as the moon set, so does the episode. And we'll return next week with some more Stitch of Fate. Goodbye, everybody.
Oh, hi, mortals. It's me, Vera Volkov, here to ask you for a little favor. As you may know, the club is currently under renovations, and we could use all the resources to get back on our feet. You can help us by either joining our Patreon or visiting tpublic.com and getting your grubby little fingers on a custom Drac Pack t-shirt. Well, what are you waiting for?